We are back in the win column. Back with the whole gang together, too, I think.
Be back.
Yeah.
90s night here, though. It's lit right now.
It was 90s night?
90s night, baby.
Oh, dude, that's like my night.
What do we got going on right now?
Yeah, what
made
it 90s night?
John, you hear it?
No, what's playing right now?
Africa?
Oh, okay. That's
Toto.
Toto.
That's it.
Toto.
Yeah.
I love Toto.
Isn't that 80s? That's 90s?
Yeah, it's like
Toto's
it's like
80s.
It's like
80s, right?
It's like it's closer to 70s than it is 90s. It's like 82, 83.
That's yacht rock. That's yacht rock, baby.
Montel Jordan performed at halftime. So
I love that
was
stuff.
live there.
I'll hop on my Peloton for an 80s ride and they'll play a song from like Weezer in like 1994 and I'm like, no. I was like, all you have to do is look at the date. It's not a genre, it's a date. Just look at the date.
4 years.
Is it a genre or is it a date? That's a good question.
It's both, but
It's both, but you got to
at the very least, you have to have the date. You know?
Little Toto, Tears for Fears.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Bike watch for John on the Pelly.
Yeah. Anyway, we are back with, like I said, the whole team. We're like the Celtics. We're like Voltron. Okay, we need all five to be at full strength. And if these couple games have taught us anything, it's fine. Yeah, they're still competitive, and they can play with a team like Miami and not have a perfect game and be there neck for neck. And then they can slug it out with a team like Indiana, which isn't great. And so, like, you just see that little kind of dip back down into mortality, you know, in the post-Rob sort of world. So, Josue, Bobby, you guys are there. Just what first takeaways from tonight's game? Because this was an annoying game, right? You're like, okay, they're up 7 or 8. Let's hit the gas and go up 20 and call it a day. It just never happened. So, Josue, start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like Indiana Pacers just felt hopeful, you know, and obviously they had a lot of reason to because of Halliburton, but then Halliburton goes down, and then all of a sudden Jalen Smith pops up, and it's funny, man. I turned to Bobby during the third quarter, and I'm like, man, Jalen Smith, like, he had a pretty good stint in Phoenix this year. He sort of disappeared, goes off, literally, right after I say that, starts going off in the third quarter, continues over into the fourth, and almost felt like they were taking turns in a way of just going through the teeth of the defense, and it's exactly what the Celtics were doing. And they were trading baskets, in my opinion. And then Lance Stevenson also was a thorn in the Celtics' side down the stretch. You know, those three-pointers as well by the Pacers. But then your two best scorers on the floor, they did what they were supposed to do, you know? Between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But Jaylen Brown, man, what a solid outing. We rarely lead the show with this, but I think it's well-deserving this time around. 17 first-half points.
Who?
You know what I mean? You got
Buddy.
He gets the brownie.
30-plus points. Look. Between him and Tatum, 30-plus point performances. What's this? The 8th this year? I mean, that's the formula, I guess. You know, when those guys are going, they rarely lose. We get that. But, yeah, the trading baskets before that, though, this game shouldn't have been that close down the stretch, but it was.
I thought Jalen played awesome tonight. I mean, he was from the ball handling to the shooting, everything. I mean, he had a little pep in his step tonight, so it was good to see. I mean, I think lately, in general, he's looked better. I know, like, last game they all looked like crap against Miami. I mean, we kind of talked about how they kind of fell into some bad habits. But overall, I like where Jalen's game's been at over the last, I would say, month, give or take, which is good because, you know, it's all hands on deck coming down the stretch here. So another great performance from him. You're right. It's a little weird talking about Jaylen Brown this early in the show. I'm kind of at a loss for words.
I'm like about to rap.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what's gonna happen if he pulls up a dud on Sunday. Everyone's gonna say, "Oh, it's because you guys talked about him. You guys jinxed him." You know,
no, for sure.
Yeah, if he puts up a dud on Sunday, it will be because he put up a dud on Sunday. Forget that. Listen,
and then we'll talk about him.
And then we'll talk about it.
We'll lead
with it.
Dud.
Exactly. That will be the lead.
Man, Jalen's killing us. Yeah.
No, he was great tonight. I mean, he did a great job of getting to his spots, knocking down the shots we know he can knock down, getting guys involved, had 7 assists. I really wasn't as bothered by the 5 turnovers as I normally would be with him when it comes to turnovers, just because I just thought he was in such a good flow that it didn't even feel like he had that many turnovers. So this was a really good Jaylen Brown game. And I like the fact, and even though it was Indiana and they kind of suck, you know that they're a Rick Carlisle coach team, so they're not just going to lay down and let you beat the snot out of them. They're not built that way. So the fact that they were able to win a close game, even though it wasn't a great team, but it was a close game nonetheless, that they had to execute and do some things down the stretch. To me, this was a nice little primer for the kind of games you're going to have to play and find ways to win come playoff time. Because you're not going to be blowing teams out the water the way you did throughout the regular season.
But
one, because it's the playoff, and two, because you don't have Rob Williams out there.
Right. So Josue, I muted you because of the 90s stuff. So go on in. You got it. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna piggyback on that. Like, yeah, you want to see some resistance against these teams, right? You don't want to see the Celtics playing a bunch of teams that are just mailing it in at this point of the regular season. So this is good in that sense. And also, Al Horford, man, what a sneaky, like low key, just filling the stat line type of Al Horford game. Man, you got 17 points, 10 rebounds, the 6 assists. I thought he sort of got Grant going with those cutting, those takes to the rim. He was cutting. Grant had a frustrating night. It seemed like he was, really hard on himself at some point, really holding his head down. And I thought Al helped him sort of, ease his offensive struggles, so to speak, right? And I felt like when he came to the defense, he was there. He was taking that extra steps, covering guys left and right, sort of taking a little bit more of the slack without having Robert Williams down low, helping him. So
I think
they're going to need that.
Yeah,
they're going to need that. So that's something you want to see carry over in that first round series for sure.
Yeah, I think Grant needs to stop trying to dunk on people. It's just not
facts.
Yeah,
facts, my dog.
But you know what though?
Facts, my dog.
He recovered.
Facts, my dog.
He recovered from that one and got a putback on it. So he battled.
But he smacked the snot out of Jaylen in the process.
And then he concussed Jaylen. So it was 2 bad things happened, 1 good. Josue's like at the spinnaker right now or something. He's
this guy's about to all right, we're good. Yeah, we're good now.
I'm waiting for the shiny ball to just kind of rotate.
He
right
just
behind
rotated. It was
right
dance floor stuff.
Did he really?
So, you did. You're he.
Anyway,
you're the hot guy. Anyway, the Al Horford stuff is interesting, right? Because it's like not only is he super freaking important now with Rob gone, you got to lean on him for 30 plus minutes. Now you threw we talked about it the other day where Tice is like Rob light because he simulates a little bit of what Rob does. He's nowhere near the athleticism and is not as dynamic, but he kind of fills that role. So you tried Grant and then you went to the Tice thing tonight. And I know Josue and Bobby talked about it on the last post-game show. It makes sense. It leaves you really thin on the bench, and it means you got to play major Al minutes. So not only are you going to count on Al like crazy tonight, it's impossible to imagine a world without Al Horford going forward. This was supposed to be a one-and-done sort of year, and then you were like, great, bye. We'll take the $14 million buyout and see you later.
Money move. Yeah.
At $28 million, you got to keep Al into next year. I know we're not going to spend time talking off season now. This team's about to enter the playoffs and has a legit chance to do some damage. But looking ahead, they need Al. He's been enormous for them all year, and obviously now with Rob gone, it's huge.
Right, and with Al, I mean, he checks off so many boxes for you. I mean, there's the production that you're getting from the wily veteran. There's the leadership that he's providing those young guys like Rob, like Grant, and then there's the fact that that he's been there, done that, and he's not going to flinch. He's not going to wilt under the pressure of in big game situations because of all that experience and the fact that he knows what it's like to have the spotlight on him, the pressure to perform on him. And that is invaluable, particularly when you're a team like the Celtics who, before Rob's injury, you had all the pieces in place for a deep playoff run, but you had very little margin for error. And without Rob, again, I don't know they're not going to be able to go as far as the roster could go with him. But you're going to need Al to step up and give you a lot of that Rob type production, and yet still continue to be an impact player in those other areas that he has been all season long. It's a lot to ask of Al at this point in his career, frankly, because I always cringe when I look at his minutes and they're inching up close to what his age is. Al's a 35-year-old who should not be playing anywhere close to 35 minutes.
He's making $27 million. He better be able to play 30
I don't give a damn if he's making $275 million. He's 35 years old. I don't need that from him. I don't want him out there because, Jimmy, I'm thinking playoffs. Well, yeah, you don't have any choice.
Right.
You don't have any choice. But I'm saying in a perfect world, Al is giving you less than 30 minutes a night and being productive. But the world is not perfect because you don't have Time Lord.
Right, but
for at least a month. For at least a month.
Everything is awful without
Josue doesn't
Time
know
Lord.
he's muted. I don't think.
Poor Josue.
He thinks we can hear him this whole time.
Go ahead.
No,
No, I
damn
got
shame.
you.
I unmute and John mutes. John unmutes
Yeah,
and I
John.
mute.
John,
It always happens.
fingers off the mute button. Fingers off.
No, John. Keep no, John.
I
muted again.
muted him again. He doesn't know it. He doesn't know it. I'm sorry. Go
Yes,
ahead.
Too
Listen,
much power. That's it.
Boomer power, boomer power,
Too
boomer
much power.
power.
Hey, I can play.
that
I can
should
play
be a
that game too.
hashtag for John. Boomer power. No, listen. Rob for no. I think you guys are messing with me. All right.
No,
Rob-
Jimmy muted me. Yeah.
Yeah.
For who
Doesn't feel
who
good, does
Rob's
it?
been throughout the course of his career, I mean, that's why we're seeing this from Al right now. I mean, he hasn't had to play these 35, minutes. He hasn't been playing the same amount of minutes as his age, until now. So that's a good thing. And you want to have him revved up going into the postseason now. Depending on how long this thing goes, how deep the Celtics go in the playoffs, I mean, that's yet to be seen. We're not quite sure he's going to be able to sustain this all, throughout the entire run. But for now, with Rob out and you're going into the first round matchup without him at all, you're going to need this from Al. So this is huge. This is exactly where you want to be right now for a team that's missing their starting center.
Well, he was redshirted last year, essentially. So he's got,
he's got legs.
he's got extra juice because he basically, he had a redshirt year in Oklahoma.
But he was still in the gym, John. He was still getting his work.
No, I know,
You
but
could
I mean,
you could be redshirted and still be in the gym.
yeah, he didn't put any.
That's the best job in the world.
Didn't put miles on the tires.
Everyone
Just
that
got
goes to
just
everyone
got
that goes to OKC and is on a similar program, they love what they do down there in terms of getting guys back on the court or resting guys. Whatever they're doing, it works because between him and Chris Paul and
True.
it's just whether they're only spending a year or two there, they come back rejuvenated after they come out of that system. I
Yeah,
don't know what
Al
they're doing.
basically was in like a hyperbaric chamber for 2 years and then just
Literally,
came back to the Celtics in the same
Do you remember when he
form.
first came back? He was singing
know?
the praises for weeks. He was like, hey,
He was
listen,
Han Solo. We just
shout out to
cryogenically
OKC.
froze him
Yeah,
and then
like,
brought
I don't
him
know
back.
where this is coming from, but I owe all this to OKC.
We
I
encased
didn't
him.
see this coming. I did not see this coming.
Worked
He kept it
perfect.
100. I love that.
Yeah, it's great. He's the same. He's the same guy. Anyway, no,
He
Al's
might
been-
only have to do this
Yeah.
for a couple more weeks based on a few more weeks based on some new timelines we're hearing on Rob.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. We can get into that a little bit. This game is
We
like
got to get into Rob at some point because have we even really got we haven't
We
really
definitely
even talked
we
about
haven't. I want one more take. Is this, just from you? I want to ask all you guys: is this a good win, a whatever take it win, or a concerning win? Like if you look at it and you're like, because again,
Classic.
fine, a win is a
Classic.
win is a win, but you're looking at the playoffs, and at worst, you got a taste of Miami, and that's a top team. You're going to play a team maybe not as good as that, but certainly a good bit better than Indiana. You've seen now 2 games without Rob in terms of how this works. After these couple of games, how are you feeling? Again, we're coming off of an unspeakably high of them just steamrolling teams, steamrolling good teams, Utah, Denver, all of that stuff, to, a kind of December effort against Miami and this is annoying. These guys are hanging around win against a bottom feeding team like Indiana that has nothing to play for. So again, how do you guys rate this win?
Good win. I think
Good.
it's a good win because you haven't been in a lot of close games, and this was a game that really was kind of up in the air, topsy-turvy for a good part of the game. Second, you are recalibrating who you are. You're still trying to figure because right now you're a different team without Rob, and you haven't had a lot of reps recently without him on the floor. So you're still trying to figure out how to play, not just play with each other, but play well enough to beat teams. And that's going to take a little bit of time. So I like where they're at right now. Obviously, that Miami game, you kind of wish you feel like that was one that they kind of gave away, that they had
Could have won that
opportunities.
easy.
They could have won that one, right. But all things considered, where they are now, I think it's a good space. And frankly, I feel good about them going into the playoffs.
Right, but Sherrod, I'll ask you. The only question is, if this were like game 50 of the regular season, and you'd be like, yeah, they're gritting it out without a key player, and this is a good effort. But it's just that they're about to enter the playoffs, and it's going to get real fast.
It's going to get real fast, but again, I think they need to have games under their belts that are going to, frankly, be almost like templates of what you got to do in the playoffs. Like this was a game where they had to execute down the stretch. That to me is my biggest concern about them going into the playoffs. Not how well they play over the course of 48 minutes, but how well do they play in the last 4 minutes, the last 6 minutes? Because a lot of games are going to be this. That's when they're going to be decided. That has not been a strength for this team this season. I think coming into this game, they're like 4-15 in games decided by 5 points or less, which is a horrible record. When you're talking about the team that's going into the playoffs, and we all know those games typically are going to be close. So this was a good win as far as really helping prep them for the kind of games they're going to have to find ways to win. That's all.
Jimmy.
Classic John question: is this a good win or a bad win? Classic. I'm just going through the comments, being like, "Shut up."
Are you one of these triggered people here? That, like,
no. Hey,
For the comments. Speaking for the comments.
every win's a good win, dude. Every win's a good win.
Dude, a win is a win. Shut up, John.
No,
you're never happy.
I
All
think
you do is complain.
There's the pros and cons to take out of this one. I mean, if you want to go and talk about Tatum and Brown on their game tonight, that's great. I mean, you're only going to go as far as those two guys go, and they both looked good tonight. I mean, some of Tatum's dunks tonight were lethal. He's showing some real strength. He like powered his way to the hoop and gave the old, this, whatever you want to call it there. He flexing the biceps there. So he's feeling it like he has been. Jaylen Brown, great game. Too many turnovers for my liking. I mean, that's what kind of kept the Pacers in this game. Points off turnovers. I think they had 24 points off turnovers, so a little sloppy. But the Pacers also shot the hell out of the ball. I mean, they hit 3 straight threes late in the fourth there to make this into a game.
Sure.
So, I mean, I think this is probably a not as close of a game as it should have been or as it showed. I think the Celtics Pacers played well tonight. They play with some heart. Everyone knows I'm a Pacers guy. I think the injuries have hurt that organization over the last couple of years more than any other one. I don't have any facts to back that up, but I know they've been hit hard with the injury bug. So I don't know what's going to happen with them. They're going to go through some big changes. But the Celtics, I'm going to say it was a good win. They're playing without Rob, so I mean every win's a good win.
Right. I'm just saying you're not going to have him, so we just got to live with for now.
Right.
This is the Celtics.
This is probably a game you win by 20 plus.
It's the first round Celtics. And then who knows for how much longer? We'll talk about that later. It's all about if you know you're getting Rob back in the second round and he's somewhere close to what he was before, then you're just thinking, are they good enough to survive a round one matchup against a Chicago or Toronto with this lineup as currently constituted?
Right.
Yeah,
that's all. That's all. It's not whether a win is a win.
Yeah.
A win is a win is a win. Who cares? I actually wouldn't have cared win, lose, whatever.
No,
I wouldn't care if they lost. If they lost, it would have been a bad loss.
Well, the reason I liked this win, it was annoying that you see some problems. The paint is open for business for sure. A little bit more without Rob. You lose that element. I think Tatum misses him a bit, even though he had a good game tonight. But you see how much he feeds off of Rob's gravity there to be able to get a little bit more space to himself. So it's been rougher sailing for him for sure without some of the stuff going on. Reverted to a little ISO, but I like the execution late tonight versus Miami, which was a good sign because they stayed in their flow. They stayed on their offense. They moved the ball and they attacked the paint, which they didn't do against Miami. And that signature play late when everything broke down late in the clock and Horford finds Tatum for the dunk, that usually ends with an off-balance one-footed three, and they kind of kept it together and got a great shot. And that was the exclamation point of the game. So I liked how they executed. It's still though, there's no certainty in that first round. That's the concern, until you get Rob back, nothing is certain anymore.
Yeah. I think that's why it was a good win, though, right? Because there were a lot of things that you just said about the fourth quarter execution, the way they played down the stretch. You would have loved to see, Halliburton in there. He seemed like he was on pace to go for 40 points. You would have loved to see how the Celtics were going to counteract that. But then when you think about it, he fouled out with 10 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter? Whose fault was that? You got to give a lot of that credit to the Celtics, right? I feel like they were really baiting him to do certain things he didn't want to do or drawing offensive fouls that he didn't think were offensive fouls, man. And one of my favorite moments of the night was Jaylen Brown put his arm around him and was like, nah, man, you did this, that, and the other. That's how you got that foul, man. But good job, kid. We'll see. I love that, man. I love that stuff. The flexing from Jason Tatum, this is the kind of attitude a championship-like defense is supposed to have, right? And even though without Rob, that's not quite what they are, they're going to have to revamp their identity right now without Rob. And I think this is a step in the right direction after losing back-to-back games.
Yeah.
Halliburton is so damn good.
He is, man.
He got at least 2 really just atrocious calls from the refs that put him in a bad spot. So look, the Celtics. Look,
Halliburton doesn't foul out. We might be having a different conversation right now.
Halliburton
the
is
last
a
one
problem.
may have not been a foul.
He's going to be a problem for a long time.
Look, I'm on record of saying he was the best player moved in that trade, and I know it was the Sabonis trade. And at the time, I was
second that.
I didn't understand it because I thought Halliburton, if not today, by next year, would be consensus best player moved in that trade. So Indiana got a good player.
Hey,
we're gonna look.
Don't
back
hate
at
on
this trade.
Sabonis. Don't hate on my.
I love Sabonis.
Sabonis is a good player. Halliburton's going to be better.
Yeah,
soon, like real soon.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
and it's
Sacramento,
weird
they don't want to wait. All right.
Yeah. Why don't you meet me in the middle, Josue?
Sacramento's in the midst of a deep playoff run upcoming.
Indiana was like, no, we're not meeting you in the middle. All right, give us Buddy Hield too. We're not stop playing with you.
yeah.
Josue, this isn't 90s either.
Yeah,
I know.
90s.
I gotta talk to
is
this
over.
guy, man.
90s is over for sure.
What are we doing here?
Great song though. That is a jam. It's just not 90s.
What is this? 04 or something? What is this, Jimmy?
That's Zed.
Oh, this is.
That's 2000. That might even be 2010.
That's in the 10s.
It all sounds the same to me now.
It's like literally like 4 years old.
Yeah, it's like exactly.
It's like it.
Anyway, let's talk about Rob. Woj going on Woj has been on this from the beginning. The 4 to 6, he's been calling it a conservative timetable. And that, there's some who believe that Rob could be closer in the 3 to 4 range, which puts him smack in the middle of, potentially the start of round 2 without, much concern. If you went to 6 weeks, you're at the end of round 2, early round 3. So that would be a hard one to survive. If you're getting Rob back for round 2, again, this is why everything about tonight and everything about this team going forward, we're going to judge over these next 4 days is how are they going to be in that first round series? Are they going to survive? And so this would be ridiculously good news if they got him back this early, right? Are you buying?
I'm always with Rob specifically. I'm nervous about him coming back earlier than expected, simply because of the long, lengthy history he has with injuries. If they think he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, I don't want him back until week 4. That's simple. I even if he feels he's ready to go, even if all the metrics say that he's ready to go, I'm not trusting that. I just don't
trust the science, Sherrod. Trust the science.
I would much rather have him out for maybe an extra week and make sure that thing is solid than potentially bring him back because there's some signs that he may be ready sooner rather than later, and then have him mess around and get hurt a week and a half, 2 weeks later. And then he'll be done for the postseason altogether.
Well, you're making a lot of assumptions.
You're making assumptions that if he in 3 weeks, if they say he's ready to go, he's ready to go. Come on now.
That's not an assumption. That's if your doctor says, you're good to go, what am I going to say? I don't believe you.
This is the gem right here, John. This is 90s. Sorry, go ahead, dude.
No, listen, Sherrod, I am on team don't rush him back. But if he's good to go, he's good to go. I don't know what else you're waiting for. What else do you need to hear? I don't know why they would put him in jeopardy if it's just waiting another week.
Why give us the runaround, right? Like, you can't give us the runaround about this. You just got to get it on point, You guys can't hit this on. Never mind.
That's my professional online doctor opinion. If we say he's good to go, then, and when by we I mean us doctors. If we say he's good to go, then you got to believe us. He's good to go. We wouldn't.
Jimmy Hauser over here.
We got Jimmy Hauser in the building. We wouldn't put our guy in jeopardy. I honestly think.
Is this like Run Around Blues Traveler that's playing?
Yes, there it is. That's what I'm saying, Rob. You can't give us the runaround about Rob.
I can't hear it. I got your lyrics.
Oh, okay,
Blues Traveler. That's 90s.
John,
so there's a lot of
who is Blues Traveler?
There's a lot of Blues Travelers is an unbelievable 90s band. Nobody plays harmonica better than that guy.
Yeah.
I know there's some questions and conspiracies as to just how bad this tear was or wasn't, and if they elected for a certain surgery and maybe instead of another one. I actually think that I'm going to take I'm going to actually believe the team and everyone this time is that I just don't think it was that serious of a tear. I'm believing what they're saying and that he's just going to be back. Some of these things don't tear as badly as, every injury is different. Like we already talked about. Embiid came back in a freaking game last year. But then a few years prior, he had to have surgery and miss more time. So there's different levels to the surgery. There's different recovery timetables. If they say 4 to 6, but he's good to go after 3.5, then I think he's good to go. Like,
Well,
it's not Jimmy, a painful injury. It's really not.
Right, well, I think.
How do you know?
I think it's the reason why Jimmy's
my research.
I think the reason why Jimmy's assuming this though is because if it were
WebMD doesn't count, Jimmy.
If it was very serious, the Celtics wouldn't risk it. I think he would be shut down for the
season. I don't think we're looking at this right. Like,
John wants to amputate. We know that.
No. Listen, that's.
I'm worried about this one too, John.
You want a clean break?
No, it's not. Look, and again, we're all reading the same stuff and talking to the same people.
I posted a study.
The way these things go is repair is the best option. You can sometimes opt for a trim and a quicker recovery when repair is also an option because you want to get back to whatever you're doing faster. That's possible.
Sometimes it's the best
sometimes repair is impossible. And you have to do that trim. It's just always tricky, and you don't know where the tear is and what other parts of the knee were compromised. So it's impossible to know. Like it was.
He may kind of pointed toward the second one.
That they couldn't repair it.
Yeah,
this was the only way to fix it.
If it was in one place, they could have done that. If it was in another place, they couldn't, and it was in another place.
It's less about severity and more about it was actually bad enough that repair wasn't possible. So I don't think we can say it wasn't that bad. It was actually probably likely bad enough that repair was impossible. So they have to do this surgery, which is less than optimal, which is why I think people are freaked because sometimes coming off of these trim surgeries, you're less effective or you develop arthritis and other things sooner.
Yeah, things you weren't used to.
You have other problems that compound your health down the road. For some people, that's not till 10, 15 years down the road, but for others, it's sooner. So yes, tear your ACL and get on with it, and you're better. We've learned this.
I posted a study. I didn't actually conduct this study, but I did research this study.
Where's the slideshow? Where's it at?
I tweeted it. I tweeted it out, so I'm not making this up. This is a study that was done by fellow professionals.
Sherrod, you listening?
They surveyed about 80. This is all true. They surveyed 80, not surveyed. They did the research on 80 people who underwent this surgery. About half of them got the repair. Half of them got the what is it? The full one or the
deluxe package?
Yeah. Half did what Rob did, half got the repair that
half
John
got the
said
full meal. The other one got the
Rob would have had. And the people who got the repair all came back, not all, like I think it was 90-something% of them ended up back to where they were prior to the injury. But the ones who did what Rob got, it was more closer to like 50%, like full recovery. So there is some level of uncertainty with this way that Rob went. But I still think that he's going to be. That's, by the way, I forgot to say, this was after 9 years. This is the numbers where they got this info. So after 9 years with the injury or with the repair, 50% of the people claimed that they were experiencing some level of pain, and the other 50% said they were good and they were like operating at the same level that they were prior to the injury. So, I mean, Rob's a physical specimen. So I think that he's going to be on that good side of the 50%.
You worry about some of the freak incidents. The Dwayne Wade one way back, Kemba more recently. This injury just leading to more trouble. Certainly, Lonzo Ball has had a lot of trouble coming back from it now on his second round of, torn meniscus. It can lead to another torn meniscus down the line. I mean, there's a lot of long-term stuff here that you're worried about because this isn't just about this year anymore. I don't think they rushed them back like John pointed toward them maybe doing here. I do think this is
not
probably...
think they did. That would be the worry that it was like, hey, should we just do the quick one and get you back? And Rob's like, okay.
Why can't the quick one just be the right one though? It could be.
It also could be. There's three options. This was the only one and the right one. It's a choice, or the other one, which was like we said, it was just so bad they couldn't do anything else. Like that's basically it.
But but I don't think it was just so bad. I truly don't believe.
Well, they didn't characterize
just so bad. They
didn't characterize the extent of the injury. Certainly, you would think if it's on the small side, 3 to 4 weeks or whatever they're thinking there, I guess it probably wasn't a terrible one because you're certainly seeing some guys miss 8-9 weeks with this kind of injury. So It's tough to say. They didn't characterize the injury. The trim went great, apparently.
It doesn't matter. The severity doesn't matter. The trim surgery brings you back faster. It doesn't mean it's bad or not bad. It can be badly torn, and the only thing you can do is a trim, and no matter what, that brings you back faster than full repair. So it's not a matter of bad. It's a matter of what happens after. Like he's
gonna toss a brace. He's gonna toss a sleeve on the knee and get out there in 3 weeks.
It's not bad or not bad. That surgery allows you to come back sooner. The full repair, which means longer health, also means longer recovery. That's it. That's all we know. Like they're just those two things. One gets you back quicker. The other takes longer. But we don't know if it was a not bad thing. It's just this is the type of surgery that allows you to return faster.
Right. And we also know based on scientific proof that both ways can get you back to where you were prior.
They can. So he could still be the same guy and be awesome.
We could get the best of both worlds here. We could get a full recovery and we could get Rob back early, maybe in time for the beginning of the second round, or who the hell knows? If it's 3 weeks, he might be back in the first round. I don't know. I mean, shoot. Yeah. Anything could happen. So
it's possible. I don't know of an example of a guy getting back that fast from it. I think it's more likely that it ends up lingering. You know, you got to get back on your feet. You got to get like the optimism this early to me is kind of surprising. Like I think it's just sort of wishful thinking in my mind. Like they're hoping that this is possible. It might take longer. You know, it took Butler 6 weeks a couple years ago. I mean, every guy's different. This is sort of his first run-in with an injury like this, so that probably plays in his favor. But I see everybody getting mad in the chat about the fact that we're worried about this. There's no good way to spin this happening to this guy, the style he plays in, with knee issues early in his career, lower body issues, blood flow issues. There's no good way to spin this.
Right, and this is the good one. This is the one that is sound structurally and all that we're talking about. How is this knee going to respond when he gets back?
Right. It's the other one that has the tendinopathy flaring up left and right that's caused him to miss pockets of time throughout the year, albeit small ones, you know, compared to what he's missed.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy who leans on his explosion. That's everything to him. And there's some knee troubles here early in his career. I mean, this is a big reason that he's here in Boston in the first place as a 27th overall pick. This is the downside to the enormous upside we've watched all year here. And it happened at the worst time. I mean, we're talking about him getting back on his feet, trying to go 100% in the middle of a playoff series. I mean, what if you're down 3-2 in a series like the Hayward return in these finals that year? And it's like, all right, let's push this guy back in to save us here. It's just not a great situation. It happened at the worst time possible. I'm not casting any dispersions on his long-term future, but that's something that comes into play with an injury like this. There's a history of guys having trouble years after this.
I mean, again, that's the whole thing. I do believe that, you know, the best case scenario of him returning and being the same guy would be great. I don't know that possible. I think it's possible. I don't know that that's what we should be expecting. A super fast return and the same exact guy he was right before he left seems like asking a lot. We're talking about knee surgery, and we're talking about a guy coming back in 3 to 4 weeks and being the same exact guy he was before he got hurt. That seems unrealistic. So you might have to skate around without him and around with him not 100%, and then who knows whether or not he gets back to it in these playoffs. Guys, come on. Whoever's there's got to mute.
Who's in the construction site?
Yeah, whoever's got the construction, you got to mute. Yeah. But yeah, that's the hope. The hope is he comes back. I think the concern is you're seeing them kind of look more normal without him here. And the thought of not having.
That was my question for you. How do you think they look without him?
The thought of having, I mean, it's hard, right? It's not the same. I mean, we haven't seen a team play at this level since the 2009 Celtics before KG got hurt in terms of killing teams. Mm-hmm. That's where they were. They were that good, absolutely obliterating teams. And so now you've seen them come back to the pack. It's sobering. You know, it is. And like I said, I actually compare it to, you know, earlier in the year when Smart was out and then he came back and they went on that tear and everyone was like, oh, look, Smart was the key. I think they're all the key. That's kind of the thing.
It's on a string. That's how they
the
play.
Whole thing is on a string. And I don't know whether it was intended to be that way or it just worked out that way. But the complement of what they can do and what they're able to accomplish together, particularly defensively, and the blend that they bring in an unconventional sort of way offensively as well, with Rob's gravity and whatever Smart's doing there, and is embracing that role of facilitator, and then Jaylen and Jason starting to play off each other a little bit more. It just turned into something I don't think anybody saw happening, to that level. And so, yeah, it's all on a string. You remove any one of them and it drops considerably. I mean, together, it's like the fist versus the five fingers. It's a big deal. It really makes, they're so different when they're missing one of these guys. It changes the whole dynamic. They're dominant with all of those guys out there, particularly defensively. And you just see that drop when one of them go out. And it's hard to say second most important, third most important. They're all important. I don't know. That's kind of what we thought. We didn't get your thoughts on the game, Bobby, since you were there. What were your takeaways?
The defense is worrisome right now. I think part of it's just, as you talked about, there being on a string and new guys playing with each other for the first time in different lineups and not being on that much of a string. I was kind of disgusted with the defense against Miami. Tonight was a little bit better. The Pacers were hitting a ton of shots. I mean, just ridiculous shot making from them again. So I think that was a bit of an extreme performance that they went up against here, but they're certainly not the same team on that end. I guess what you feel good about is the offense being able to function at that level. Josue and I, we were the only ones on here after that Wednesday game, and we sort of went right in on that Tice adjustment, and so fortunately so did Ime. That was an obvious, I think, stylistic match for what Rob was doing there on the offensive end. Yes, and that's amazing. Amazing to think about. But you think of where Horford is as an offensive player at this point in his career. He's not backing down a ton. He's not rolling a ton. Tice gives you a lot more in terms of scoring and screening and rolling on offense that are similar enough to Rob. Even his lob ability, I think, is surprising his teammates early on. And he's sort of been stressing these guys over the last couple of days. I can get up and get those. And you saw White throw him a really nice one. So I hope they stay with that. It's great size. Tice can defend even though he fouls his head off, and he did again today. Horford is still defending at a high level in his own right. I thought he was just ridiculously good in this one. So overall, it looks like they can have a lineup on the court that at least models what they were doing before. Now, I don't like the defensive stuff that Ime's running.
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit too much drop. Not switching as much. The switches are off. I don't know why they're doing some of this
Both
stuff.
games, the Miami game as well. They went away from it. The second game in a row here.
Maybe that's just easing into it, but they should stick with what they're doing, especially if they're expecting Rob to come back, right?
Are they just worried that Tice just can't do it, there, and that's really it?
Maybe they're just not used to those five playing on the court together. I mean, you think about it, Tice and Horford played together for 2 years. They probably never played together. Or at least for any significant minutes. So that's a duo that's going to have to get ramped up here. And they have 4 games to do it. I'm sure there'll be some rest mixed in there. They don't have a lot of time to nail that end of the floor here. So fortunately, they're going to have some tough teams coming up that'll really test them on that end. But they're going to be in some rock fights here if they can't defend. And I guess you feel good about the fact
this
that
wasn't a rock fight. They gave up 123 freaking points.
Well, it was for possession for possession.
I know.
Whatever you want to call it. These are going to be some really close games, but luckily you look at their numbers, they're a positive team even without Rob. It's very thin margins. They're going to have to execute in the clutch as they did here.
I thought defense was much better against Miami. I thought they played a really good defensive game there. They made them work for everything. They just hit they hit a lot of contested threes.
The breakdowns are just scary there.
A few, but I mean, still enough to keep that game low scoring. And Miami was shooting well, in shots that, again, late. They had a lot of possessions against Miami where they defended for 21, 22, 23 seconds. Miami hit a shot late in the clock. So I thought they played well here. Here, they just kind of, I know the Pacers shot well, but part of that is, is on the Celtics there. You don't have that. You don't have the rim presence. And again, they shot well from 3. But I mean, Rob does everything. He defends the paint, and also he's terrific defending the perimeter. I mean, what was the stat? He was top 5 or 6 in the league in 3-pointers defended.
I think he had the lowest defensive field goal percentage of anybody too.
Of anybody, but just in terms of 3-pointers defended, I think he had perimeter player numbers in that regard. So I mean, he's all over the place there. It's hard to quantify exactly what he does for you.
So
His
how's
switchability is what they're going to miss.
Yeah.
Rob's switchability is what they're really going to miss defensively. And to me, of all the things that Tice brings that are similar to Rob, the biggest gap, I think, is that ability to switch defensively. Because Rob had the ability to more than hold his own against most guards, wings, whoever.
Yeah.
Tice, not so much. And that's why we're going to see a lot of games like this, where the Celtics are going to have to outscore teams to win. Defense is still important, but they're going to have to be in shot making mode to win a lot of these games. I thought one guy, and we haven't talked about him at all. He might be the brownie guy today. Is Derrick White, who had 13 points,
awesome.
only took 4 shots. Had 13 points, took 4
Just
shots.
when you thought Jaylen was going to get the brownie award, nope. Sherrod just grabs it, snatches it, and gives it to Derrick White.
I like that one, Sherrod.
Derrick White,
13 points and 4 shots.
Game sealing, I guess you could say, drive right there at the end.
Yeah. Plus he had the big three that he hit at the top of the key.
And I'm telling Bobby too. I'm telling Bobby, I'm like, go inside. You got it right there. And he finally took the lane, but I feel like he was so like hesitant. And I'm like, look, I know it's only 30 seconds left, but do your thing, man. You had the space, and he finally did it. So
Derrick White gets the brownie. Yep.
He did almost break the backboard on one of his 3-pointers, but other than that, he had a good game.
He's flashing some good chemistry with Tice too. I know people are worried about like the rotations there with the bigs, but you'll be able to stagger your bigs, and to have a guy with White in that second unit who can run some pick and roll. I know Brown did it last game too. He unlocks a lot of these perimeter guys in ways that are surprising. I mean, Houston obviously just completely misused them, and the Celtics are basically getting the benefit of having him right back. But I love what White did here. You have an outlet for him. You have him on the ball a little bit more. I asked him the other day about playing off the ball, and this is kind of an adjustment for him in that regard. This is probably the most off-ball minutes he's played in his career, even though he did a little bit of that at San Antonio. Brown's running that second unit a lot of the time, and I'd almost like to see that inverted. Let Brown be that finisher. He did it again today, had an outstanding victory by just kind of focusing on finishing possessions, and White doing a lot of the initiating there. That second unit can be good. I know Grant's in a slump right now. Pritchard's kind of coming back to earth, but keep those 4 guys, Grant, White, Pritchard, and occasionally Tyson there, and you're going to have a decent second unit. I think you're going to feel good about that group.
Bobby and Josue, what'd you guys like about Jaylen's game tonight?
Jaylen's game? Just how aggressive he was, especially out of the gate. I thought that him and Tatum played well off each other. I saw Tatum, a couple of instances where he didn't have to get in the ball, but he definitely had his eye out for Jaylen, which I think has been a development in itself the past few weeks or so. But I think this is the kind of game where even though he had 19 points in the first half, you weren't quite sure if he was going to reach 30 because Jaylen, he had the tendency to do this, right? So I love that Tatum wasn't only encouraging him, but they were both working together as a cohesive unit, and that's what you get. You get another 30-plus point game from both of those guys in the same game, which is the count is at 8 this season. I feel like it should be at like 15, but they made it. They finally reached that point where they can play together. And listen, another reason why I think this is a good win for the Celtics is because, in the fourth quarter, unlike, what they did against the Miami Heat, now granted, that's a tougher team. They played much better defense, but they got going from behind the arc. And the Celtics didn't try to do the same. They didn't try to, duplicate what they were doing. They just stuck with their game. And I thought that was a big difference compared to this game when you look at what happened Wednesday night. I mean, and the Pacers, for them to, drop 17 3-pointers and the Celtics survived that without having to, match that, I think that's significant as well.
Yeah, Jaylen's having a tough shooting season overall from 3. Better tonight, but I like the fact that they've started to put him closer to the basket, whether it's post-up opportunities. He's had some really nice games in the post, flashed some good footwork there, not needing to dribble as much. I mean, again, he traveled again in this game and gets stuck on the dribble drives, and you don't want him being the guy that's lining people up. You want him to be the guy in the post, running a little more pick and rolls, dives, cuts to the basket. All that stuff's going to help him be more efficient. And as a finisher, over the last 8 games or so, he's pushing 30 points a game. He's probably at that point.
And
now
it's all going to the basket. And it's just been great to watch.
It's amazing. And he's super aggressive. There's never a game where he gets lost in the shuffle like we saw last year. I think that's been the biggest improvement from this year.
That's the thing is the turnovers are annoying. Sherrod mentioned it at the top of the show. I just think you've got to recognize this is what it is with Jaylen. If in order to be aggressive, this is the gamble. He's going to lose some of the balls. I've compared him at times to Westbrook, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, Westbrook sucks." I just mean that he has to go full speed because that's how he gets to the basket, just going a zillion miles an hour. But when he does that, things happen. He'll lose the ball. He's going a little too fast. He gets trapped in some weird situations. He leaves his feet. He doesn't know what to do with it. Turns into a turnover or two.
And
Those are going to happen. He just has to avoid the sloppy ones, that like are totally avoidable. The ones that he's going full speed and trying to make a play, you live with those because that's going to get you. It's going to turn out more good than bad way more often. So live with those. Just cut down the dumb, careless, not paying attention, lazy pass ones, and you're fine with Jaylen. That's why the turnover number doesn't really bug me. Because, he shot 12 of 13, 10 of 13, going to the basket today. That's a ridiculous percentage. That's what you want him to do. Get moving, get towards the basket, and, live with the consequences if he ends up turning it over a couple times.
We do have Jason at the podium. I'm going to go check in with him real quick.
Okay, bye, Bobby. Jimmy, no sound. You've been muted, my man. And you got to leave and come back. I know. Same you too, Josue.
Oh, you look so upset.
I got you now. Okay. Yeah, Jimmy. Bye. Bye, Jimmy.
What is going on tomorrow night? Like, what is the event that they have to take the court off and play?
Good thing about Jaylen too is kind of is showing in the fourth, as you said, Josue, showing in the fourth also, where he'll show up in the first and then he's like, where did he go?
Right.
So that's what's good.
It wouldn't have been surprising to me if he finished with like 28 after scoring, what was it, 19 in the first half. It wouldn't shock me because he's done that before or something close to it.
Yeah. So that's what we got. It's an ugly win against the Pacers. That some good things happen. A couple of guys scored 30. Al plays a good game.
Al's balling.
White gets the brownie.
And I'll have to help that second. We're gonna have to help that second unit if Grant's there. If Tice is gonna be the spot starting center, I like the way those two play off of each other, but I don't know. I don't want them to wear out, Al's production before the play, going into the playoff and get too used to it that all of a sudden he's gassed by towards the end of the second round.
I worry about that all the time with Al.
Check.
Him playing too many minutes.
Yeah.
I want Al to be ready to roll come playoff time. I want if we're talking about Al playing like in the low to mid 30s in the playoffs, I'm perfectly fine with that because that's your money making time. That's when you need your guys that can make an impact. But these last 4 games, it'd be great if they won all of them. But damn, I'd much rather see his minutes reduced or him sitting out at least one of those games than to have him playing 35, 36 minutes all the way up to the playoffs.
Right.
Because damn well he's not gonna. The tank is gonna be not on E, but it's gonna be pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And you don't want that.
You keep doing that, mess around, a gaslight will come on during the second round. Big trouble.
And when your gaslight come on, what happens to your car? Guess where you're going? Not a damn place. You stuck. You're going nowhere. And this team, I think this team is too good to be in that position because they do have the potential to make some noise. Even without Rob, I think they can go fairly far. But they're going to need to manage the minutes of guys like Al Horford between now and then so that they can be successful and he can be someone that can contribute when the games really matter, which is the playoffs.
Yeah. Playoff seating is really interesting now because, I mean, who do you guys want? Because right now,
Cleveland.
Everyone's saying everyone feels like there's a little tankapalooza going on to avoid Brooklyn. And I wouldn't argue against that. And so I start to wonder whether the Celtics, again, really, really, really want to avoid that. Especially post Rob. We were having this conversation first fully, with Rob here when he was playing and Bobby wasn't afraid at all. Sherrod, you and I were a little bit cautious. I still think the Celtics before the Rob injury straight up would probably have beaten Brooklyn. Nothing's guaranteed though. I do not think you want anything to do with them without Rob Williams, man. I really don't.
Yeah.
Josue, sorry. It sounds like there's like Godzilla's behind you right now. What's going on?
No, I'm just.
You're good, Jimmy. We got you.
I'm back, bitches.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm good now. Yeah, no, I mean,
Dude.
look, that the last time these two teams faced each other, I mean, the Brooklyn Nets not going to see that same defense. Like that was the smothering defense that was led by Rob, getting everyone's face. Even if what was it, Durant still had a good score in that, but it took him a lot of attempts to get there. I mean, like that's the formula to disrupt these guys, or at least Kevin Durant. And I think that you're a completely different team without him out there, without Rob out there. In terms of trying to guard these guys. Would it be impossible? Would I be shocked the Celtics won the best of 7 series against the Nets? No, not necessarily, but I just think it's going to be very difficult, out of the gate, an opponent like that. I like the Celtics' chances against a Chicago Bulls team. I like the Celtics' chances against a Toronto Raptors team if they're all eligible.
Yeah, non-Rob
players.
Non-Rob.
Non-Rob.
Non-Rob. Pick your first round opponent, because I do feel like I said,
Toronto.
I'm avoid Brooklyn like the plague. But Sherrod, non-Rob, who's the team you want to play in the first round?
I'm with you. Avoid Brooklyn. Yeah.
Cleveland. That's the team I want to play.
If you could pick it.
If I could pick any team, it'd be
They're
Cleveland.
falling though, man.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, you're just hoping that they can hang on.
Chicago. I meant Cleveland.
You meant Cleveland. Okay.
Cleveland is a team that you want. The thing about Brooklyn, though, I'll say this, is that I don't believe that there's enough time in the season for them to gain the kind of ground that they're going to need in order to move up out of the play-in format. I just think that they're going to, first of all, they're going to have to run the tables essentially to even have a shot at moving up outside of the play-in game. And that's assuming that the teams ahead of them are all going to lose, which I'm not convinced that's going to happen. I don't think Toronto is going to fall off, if at all. Cleveland probably, but that would get them up to maybe 7 if you're Brooklyn. And that still keeps you in that play-in format. So I'm not as worried about them in the first round, because I don't think that you're necessarily going to see them if you're the Celtics and you finish in the top 3. To me, that's the goal. Finish in the top 3. If you finish in the top 3, you're not going to see Brooklyn first round.
Give me Toronto.
Because what's that? Because if you finish third, then you play the 6th seed.
No, but if you finish second, Brooklyn could finish 8th. Take out the 7 team. That 7 team could lose. That's always a possibility.
But then you've got shit that you gonna control. I mean, if you
can from the 3 seed. From the 3 seed, from the 3 and the 4, you've avoided Brooklyn. The problem is, if you want Cleveland, Toronto, if you want Cleveland, Atlanta, one of those other teams, you're only getting them from the 1 or the 2. So pick your poison. You're going to get a Chicago team in round 1 without Rob, or Toronto. I don't know how you feel about that in a 3-6-4-5 matchup right now. So
I prefer Toronto over Chicago, because Chicago has a badass at that position, Vucevic, who and we're not even talking about Zach LaVine. We're not talking about DeRozan. Yeah, so I don't want to deal with Chicago first round. I just if you see them second round, great. First round, no. That's a high quality first round opponent. You want Toronto, you want Cleveland, and you want whoever can come out of that play-in, not named Brooklyn.
Yeah, I want Toronto. They just don't scare me that much. I know Siakam just dropped 40, but he kind of they had their way with you.
He dropped 40 when 4-year starters not playing.
Jimmy's like, he ain't no Norman
that's
Powell,
why
though.
I'm not high on Toronto or Siakam. I think he's kind of a poser. I think he's a fraud star. I think the Celtics can put him back to the G League.
Celtics make life bad for him. I mean,
exactly, yeah.
He can drop 40. He can drop 40 with Daniel Tice trying to guard him.
Right, exactly.
He's not gonna,
Toronto's soft. I'll say it. I think they're soft. I think the Celtics would have their way with them. They almost beat them with a bench unit, and I know that that's just regular season and things would be a little different in the playoffs. But I still like the Celtics' chances against Toronto. I'll take them over Cleveland too. But yeah, I agree. I mean, if you can avoid Chicago, that's just a tough team. Like, they play hard. DeRozan's a killer. We talked about Levine. Ball should probably be back. They're playing without Ball right now. And they're still playing tough. So that's not a team I want to see in the first round. That's like a dogfight type of a series right there.
Yeah.
So Toronto and Cleveland would be 1 and 1A for me.
Yeah, Toronto. I don't think Toronto is soft. I just don't think they're that good. I mean,
that's kind of what I mean.
That simple. I don't think
they're that good. Yeah,
I don't think they're that good. And now Cleveland, I think Cleveland is just young. I think that's the biggest issue that Cleveland has, and they really haven't figured out who is that glue guy veteran that can kind of keep everything together and just elevate them. And they've got some health issues as well. So those are the 2 teams I would love to see if you're the Boston Celtics, because I think either one of those teams in the first round series will be a short series. Should not go more than 5 or 6 games.
Did you guys see the Clippers Bucks score?
No. What is it?
Clippers 153-119.
Damn.
It was a tanky lineup. There was no
Tanky.
It was everybody sat. The Bucks sat everyone. Everyone. They sat Giannis. They sat Middleton.
Obvious, huh?
They sat Giroux. Again, I know there's people in here. There's people in here with their green goggles. Celtics shouldn't be afraid of everyone. Like every team is trying. Everyone is trying to avoid Brooklyn, guys. Everyone.
Damn. You got Javon Carter starting. Pat Connaughton. Okay, I give you Pat.
Yeah.
Serge.
No
Jordan Nwora.
No more wanky my tanky.
Tanky.
Yeah,
what?
tanky.
What did
tanky.
you say?
It was a line from an 80s movie. It was 90s night, but I went back to the 80s.
Yeah, obscure 80s movie.
You and the DJ, man. Jeez, get it together. He was playing 80s music earlier.
Damn, I forgot what I was going to say. What were we just talking about?
Everyone wants to be 3, guys. Everyone.
3 is the new number 1.
Everyone wants to get out. The best thing that happened to the Celtics was that Miami lost, guys. Really was.
Teams do actually try to position themselves. Jason Tatum pretty much admitted it on his podcast with JJ Redick. He said I think he knew certain teams were trying to get the Celtics and because they were down or whatever it was, and they were trying to get other teams. So, we're talking about. It's still too early to say how it's going to shake out, but when you get down to the final few games, there would be some teams trying to position themselves for matchups that they.
It's easy to do it. It's easy to do it when you have a clear and defined core group. You just sit those guys and you use it under the umbrella of we're just resting for the playoffs.
Yeah,
we're just resting because at that point the game doesn't matter to you. You're cool. You don't need that win to get to a certain spot because the spot you're in, you're cool with being right there. Right now, the Celtics are the 3 seed in the East, and damn, that's a good spot to be in.
Let me say this. None of us. If you're just talking about strictly chances to win, I know a lot of people don't want the Celtics to play the Nets, but that would be so fun. That's my guilty pleasure.
Of course,
series that I sneaky want that to happen. And for the record, I think the Celtics could still win that series even without Rob because the Nets.
I would expect them to.
The Nets are thin themselves, and they've got 2 superstars that have the ability to go off, but so do the Celtics. So I'm not going to count the Celtics out. And if Celtics play better defense and they'll have the home court.
If they play Brooklyn, I still expect the Celtics to win that series.
I want
it'll
Brooklyn.
be a much harder series.
Give me Brooklyn.
Guys, beeping. If you hear beeping behind you, mute yourself.
If you hear it, we can hear it.
Yeah, if you can hear it, we can hear it. So
that's
can the
Bobby.
people.
Josue just
was pointing at Bobby.
There.
Yeah. Josue's like, I'm clean. All right, good.
Bobby, you got anything for us from the
no
from the 45-second Jason Tatum presser?
Question about his T-shirt or something, and that was it.
Oh,
I don't know what's going on down there.
Sounds riveting.
But I
Glad
don't know.
We sent you.
What were we talking about here?
Who the Celtics should want to play or who we want them to play in the playoffs first round.
All right, so on the Brooklyn thing, let them get out of the play-in tournament first before you worry about that. They lost a brutal game to Charlotte. They haven't been playing amazing since Kyrie got back full-time there, so they got to get out of that tournament before you can be worried about them. I am worried about the 2 teams that I think they're more likely to line up against here, and I know you guys mentioned the Milwaukee loss tonight, so that kind of keeps them in play for a higher seed. But it looks like Chicago or Toronto. They're half game.
You worried
apart,
about Toronto?
So I'm worried about both those teams. Chicago's got a lot of firepower, even though they're not playing well. Those DeRozan 50 bombs can get you, as it did the Clippers the other night. So you're worried about his isolation scoring. And with Toronto, they have so many guys to throw at the wings. We kind of saw a mini preview of it up there when the Celtics were sitting everybody, of course. But they're so disruptive. They're so aggressive on the offensive boards. The Celtics aren't a great defensive rebounding team now, especially without Rob. And, of course, it's a tough place to play out in Toronto. So, and you have the lingering vaccine questions, which we won't even get into because we're all just guessing there. But who knows what happens there. So that's a dangerous series for a bunch of different reasons. It's a team that's had Boston's number. We certainly remember that bubble series, and you have champions on that team. Pascal Siakam's playing amazing. Fred VanVleet has had an all-star season. That's a group that I don't think you want to mess with, and especially without Rob. You do have a size advantage on them, I'd say, in the interior that you can take advantage of, and Toronto's offense isn't very good, so I still think the expectation with the Celtics is to win a series. You should be beating no matter who, beating whoever you line up against first round, and that should be the expectation now, even without Rob.
Why is that the case? Again, it's like, I know
that's the
it's
expectation,
like,
John. It'd be a disappointment if they don't.
No,
that's
but it's not, though. That's the whole thing is like, I think you really got to rethink it. And it's not to be negative. You just have to recognize they're
So the season's gone now?
No, they're back in the pack. It's not an expectation. It is a total coin flip in that first round. They are back in that pack right now. This is a team that played ungodly high, a ridiculously high level for 30 games, and is only 1 or 2 games ahead of one of the teams that they're going to play. They're not in a different stratosphere without Rob.
But you still have enough to win games.
They do, but so does every team in the playoffs has enough to win games right now.
Not the teams you're going against.
Yes, they do. Without Rob, every team any team they face in the first chance absolutely can win that series against the Celtics. Before Rob's injury, I would have said, I don't think there's any first round opponent I'm concerned with at all. Your concern starts when you get into the Milwaukee's and Miami's in round 2.
But you're now going from destroying those teams, losing one guy to losing to them and saying, oh, whatever.
Not losing to them. You weren't destroying them. You haven't really gotten to play any of them at full strength for them either. You haven't. The reality is they've not faced a full-strength Chicago team. They've not faced a full-strength Toronto team when they've been full-strength too. It just hasn't happened. They've not played these teams when those guys have had everybody and when they've had everybody. And right now the Celtics are missing a key piece. They're very much in the pack again. So there's a lot of uncertainty in that first-round matchup. I don't. Before Rob's injury, I didn't think so. Now I do.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I think it's fair.
No outcome would surprise me. That's all.
Okay, yeah. Well, all right. Well, when you word it that way, I just don't think it's.
People are thinking
no outcome would surprise you. Wow, good take.
But people think it's a guarantee that they're going to win that first round. Are we serious?
I don't think it's a guarantee, but I think for certain matchups, you would say it would be surprising if they lost. You know, a team like
it would be surprising if they lost to Chicago without Rob. It would really be surprising.
I'm saying particular matchups.
Said certain matchups.
Cleveland. Yeah, certain matches. Cleveland Cavaliers, Toronto Raptors. Like, yeah, that would be surprising because you still have arguably the 3 best players in the series on your team, or at least the top 2. You know, and from what we've seen between the two of them, that should be enough. From what we've seen defensively, even without Rob, it should be enough against those teams. But yeah, I mean, to your point, if you lined up against a team like the Chicago Bulls, or if you lined up, it changes. I don't think you should be able to say that whoever they play against, you know, if they stay in this 3rd seed, obviously, right? If they drop, then it's a different story. But if they stay in this 3rd seed, you know, that it wouldn't be shocking if they lost. I think it would be somewhat shocking or surprising if they lose to one of those teams between, you know, if they're lined up to play the 6th seed against a team like the Toronto Raptors or the
Toronto's
the
one
Cavaliers.
team. I agree with you guys. I just don't. I don't.
You still
see
like Cleveland? You still believe in Cleveland?
Yeah, and again, I think Cleveland again. I think you're going to have the Celtics as favorites. All I'm saying is they're much closer to that pack than they were before. So therefore, any range of outcomes is now possible. I know a lot of people are like, "Don't worry, we cruise through the first and then get Rob back in the second." That first round is really going to be challenging right now. It's really good. All of these teams are good.
That's how I feel about the second round because everyone's like, "Oh, Rob will be back. Rob will be back." Well, we'll win before game 2, before game 3. Like all of that makes a difference. It makes a tremendous difference in the best of 7 series because you're going to be matched up against one of those top 4 or 5 teams in the East that are going to give you fits because you don't have Rob in the mix. Or even if he is in the mix, he's not 100%. But you know, if he's not playing at all in those first, game 1 or game 2, you're in a tough spot.
Couple interesting things just to rip through in terms of the rest of the league as we're talking about like people entering the playoffs. We've been talking about the Simmons thing this whole time. A report out today, they don't even know if he's around for the first round. At this point, are we considering it a wash? Are we considering this a sunk year for him?
Yes.
100%. You don't see him contributing at all?
At all. Other than waving a towel on the sideline. That's going to be his role.
With the brand new fit, all suited up and shit. Sorry.
If he made a penny this season, he should give it back. It's pathetic. Honestly, it's disgusting.
Well, the issue that Brooklyn's going to run into with him is that if, let's say, they get into a series and they're playing really well, and then and he's, let's say, healthy enough in all phases, mentally, physically ready to go, do you disrupt the flow to integrate him, or do you just let him sit and just call it a wash? And if you're behind and you're in a must-win type situation, do you really want to put him in that type of pressure situation right out the gate? I don't see any way that Jimmy,
you're supposed to do that now, okay? You're supposed to do that 2 weeks.
He's getting paid millions of dollars to be in pressure situations.
Jimmy,
just ask him the damn game.
You're acting as if you're acting as if Ben Simmons is like your average NBA player. He's not. He's clearly not. In fact, the whole pressure situation is the reason he's in this damn situation to begin with, because he couldn't handle it.
Well, then you got to get.
So
the only way you're going to get over it is by getting back out there. You want to teach a kid to swim, you got to throw him in the pool. You don't show him a picture of a pool.
Why not do that now? I just don't understand it. Like, why not put him in the mix, even if he's limited? Like, I don't understand.
He's not going to be Sherrod. He's not going to be asked to be the focal point of the offense. He needs to go in there. He can't go in there and play defense. He can't go pass the ball to Durant. Hey, just give the ball to Durant or Kyrie.
Jimmy, he's this freaking all-star point guard, man. He's got to be in the mix. He's got to be,
be in the mix, but
a part-time guy who just doesn't even know the sets yet and hasn't even had the reps and then jump into the playoffs. Like,
I just don't think that they're going to risk putting him out there at this point. I just don't think they'll do it.
I do. It's basketball.
If he's healthy,
they're professional basketball players. They've played their whole lives.
Why are we babying guys?
He's going to run.
You can't throw the fragile guy out there.
John, they have not been treating him the way you would treat a basketball player.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's facts. That's facts, my dog. They haven't been treating him that way.
Facts, my dog.
he should have been out there by now, and he hasn't.
So it's got to be physical. I mean, they say he's got a back issue. So I mean, apparently he's got a back issue.
Yeah,
that just won't go away. So I mean, listen, I'm not saying that he's faking an injury.
That's what this has been the whole time.
He's got a hurt back. He's got a hurt back.
If he's healthy, he's playing.
He had a week back.
He should play. He should play if he's healthy.
He should play.
I'm not convinced he will, though. I'm not convinced that he will be in physical condition to play and that they will play him.
So that's the thing. It's the physical. At this point, they're kicking this can so far down the road, I think you're just going to run out of time. Like, if you're already saying, yeah, regular season's out, we'll see in the playoffs, you're right. It's not just integration. It's just
Bobby's going to get the
They've already checked out that he's going to be part of the
clock is ticking at that point. Yeah. So you're really in bad shape.
Bobby will take a massive victory lap if he doesn't play, and I'm going to take a huge L. Probably my biggest L in a long time. And I don't take many, but I would take a big L if Simmons doesn't play.
Oh, that's why you're so upset.
One other thing.
That's why you're all working.
Part of it, Josue. Part of it.
Talking about the teams around the Celtics, another report today that some 76ers players aren't feeling Doc Rivers these days.
Yeah.
James,
who could that be?
I don't know what that means, but James Harden is just dropping bodies everywhere he goes, huh?
Oh, you gonna put this on him?
The basketball hitman.
Oh, man, you gonna put this on James?
Yeah, I don't think it's Korkmaz.
He's friggin' Brother Mouzone, okay? He shows up somewhere, people are gonna die, okay? Brother Mouzone, okay?
He's the guy who comes through after like 3 weeks. He turns around like, you guys even like this dude? And all of a sudden, it's like, you know what? I'm actually not a big fan of it. But no,
Doc will go down swinging though.
We can't say it was definitely Harden though.
You know that would be.
You cannot say it's Harden.
Press conference once they get eliminated.
He does he's got a track record.
He does. I mean, if this thing goes south, I'm sure there'll be interesting quotes out there. But I don't know. Philly's always, you never really know what's going on in Philly. But this is the year. I mean, this should be the year, right? And Embiid's an MVP candidate.
The year for what? The year for them to choke? Again?
The year for them to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, man.
Philly was my favorite. But
I don't know if they'll break through.
I'm waffling a little bit on them right now.
Listen, I've been consistent with this. When they included Curry in the trade, they lost. They lost it at that point because you need guys to make shots around Joel. Mm-hmm. He was one of your, and right now you've got Harden, who sometimes can make shots, and you're counting on Maxey to be that guy.
That's Josue, everybody. I don't want to save the jokes. What happened?
What, somebody thought you farted again, Jimmy? Is that what happened?
I'm hearing some sounds coming from Josue.
He's so paranoid. It's the drill. I got it.
Yeah.
Jimmy's like, it wasn't me.
Yo, Yo, my hands are up right now, bro. Like,
You're not a tournament.
I ain't making any
You're
sounds.
Good. You're good.
Yeah,
Philly's in trouble. I'm not worried about them.
Philly's lost 3 straight. They're tanking to avoid the
Embiid
Nets.
can't do it all.
Last time they faced them, that didn't go well. Milwaukee went toe to toe with them. They barely snuck out a win. They want nothing to do with the Nets. They sat everybody tonight. They're like, let's get out of this 2 seed. So again, beware. Celtics need to get the memo here. Let's start resting some people. Once you've locked up home court in round 1, call it a day. That's what I say. Health is more.
That's the difference between Toronto and Chicago, though.
Look, there's back-to-backs, April 6th and 7th, Chicago, Milwaukee there, and then you got 3 days off to Memphis. I think 2 of those 3 games your starters aren't playing.
Right.
One of those back-to-backs, and then probably the Memphis game.
I would if I had to line that up, I would have my core guys not play in the Milwaukee game.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah,
but you don't need an angle for seeding here, and try to drop lower. Go as high as you possibly can. Don't be afraid of anybody.
Okay,
it's
except the Nets, which you
absolutely Bobby wants that.
The Nets might not make it through the play-in round. I would not be surprised if the Nets lose in the play-in round.
I would not be surprised if the Nets win the title. Like I
don't know how they've earned this reputation.
I tell you what, though,
because they're freaking terrifying.
You know how Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have earned this reputation.
They're terrifying.
Here's the scenario that I can see where
any series they play in, they have the 2 best.
Right.
If Brooklyn has to play Charlotte in a playing game,
but they don't play defense.
I like Charlotte.
Charlotte's another team. Atlanta, explosive offense.
I'm not worried about Atlanta. Atlanta, they're done.
I guess the tricky thing is like they're gonna get in that Cleveland thing as Cleveland continues to slide here, and it doesn't look like the Cavs are gonna have anybody rolling at full health for that game. So they win that, and they kind of punch their ticket into that 7. So that's how they could do it. But if they lose that game and they have to play a Charlotte or an Atlanta in that next game, that's where I'd be worried if I'm them. And, they got to actually clinch that 8th seed. They're in a tie with Atlanta and Charlotte right now, and they're not in a good tie-breaking position with them. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. They have a game against the Hawks. But, again, you can't be scared of anybody if you're going to make this run here. You're going to have to play the Nets at some point. It'd be great if
not according to you. No one's going to play the Nets.
No one.
It'd be great if you could do it later, obviously, with the Rob return there. But, I mean, again, all these teams are tough. Toronto, Chicago.
Yeah, it's the playoffs. They're all good enough to be in the playoffs. So there's obviously strengths and weaknesses.
You might get a Cleveland if you're lucky.
But, Bobby, you would have to agree that probably Toronto and Cleveland are probably 2 of the weaker playoff teams. Fully healthy. Let's just say fully healthy. Every team, all things being equal.
I'd put the Bulls and Raptors in an echelon above the Cavs for sure.
Yeah.
Just because of health.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then after that, it's obviously you got the upper tier 4, and you'd probably put the Nets like sandwiched between the Bulls, Raptors teams and the top teams there. So
yeah.
Where do you put the Celtics?
Sherrod said it earlier. Give me Cleveland. If you want one of those teams, you want Cleveland.
It's tough to say. I haven't seen enough of the Celtics without Rob here. It doesn't look great so far. I still think they have enough to win a series here, but their defense dropping like it has the last couple of games here is really worrisome. And the Celtics didn't sound that worried in the pressers tonight. There just isn't a lot of time to hammer down these rotations and all the different things that they need to do. And that's another reason to possibly not rest guys, because you got to get the rotations down and the chemistry rolling between these new lineups that you're putting out there. So I think there's room to rest for one game. That Milwaukee one's a good one, Sherrod. But other than that, I think you're going to have to play this out. Maybe if you're locked in for that Memphis game, you could bomb that one out. But, for the Chicago one, you got to seal up home court, as John said. Washington on Sunday, you can grab a win there. Close to well do it.
They've pretty much sealed it at this point. I mean, not sealed, but like just the way things play out and teams playing one another, it's not sealed. You're 2 games up in the loss column on those teams, and you own tiebreakers. So you're feeling pretty good about, edging that out. I think one more, another win or so, and it makes it almost impossible. So you take care of business here. It's going to be hard to fall out of that thing. And I do think they'll strategically rest people in that. Like I said, they're not playing their starters in the back-to-backs. They're going to sit one of those 2 games. And then depending on how things shake out, I wouldn't be stunned if they sit them all in Memphis. So I'm sticking with that prediction. 2 of those last 3 games, they will not have a full lineup. Yeah.
So let me just say something here. So one betting site, I'm not going to say what it is because no free ads, however, has, you can bet on who's going to win the Eastern Conference. Which team do you think is first?
Milwaukee.
It's the Nets, but I don't buy it.
It is the Nets.
Oh, I thought the Nets were second.
Plus 265 for the Nets, and then the Bucks are plus 285.
Oh, I had it flipped in my head.
It's very close.
The Celtics are third.
Celtics are third at plus 425, and then you've got the Sixers right behind them, then the Heat, and then there's a big jump from the Heat at plus 500 to the Bulls at
You know why the
plus
Heat are low?
3,500.
Because people think they're going to play Brooklyn in round one.
Yeah, you're right. The Bulls are plus 4,500. So there's 5 teams that the general public thinks has a legitimate chance. It's fairly even, I guess, 1 through 5. I mean, there's a big difference, I guess, between the Nets and the Heat, but yeah, good money on the Heat right now, plus 500, I guess, if you think they're legit.
Yeah.
Hornets plus 30,000. So not a lot of belief in the Hornets at plus 30,000.
Yeah. They are getting Gordon Hayward back tomorrow.
Hey, toss a couple bucks on them, ride it out.
That's not a bad one. All right, so we got another one in a couple days, so we'll wrap it up here. If anyone's got any final thoughts, fire away. Otherwise, we're going to say goodnight. I do want to mention our poll. We are in the finals, guys. We are in the finals. It is between Phenomenal and Brockton Wi-Fi. Two number 1 seeds.
2 wagons. Okay? Yeah. I mean, this could go either way. I don't even know I haven't voted yet. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go.
Phenomenal just has so much momentum. I mean, that's what everyone's familiar with.
Yeah. Phenomenal is
so.
Oh, Josue, you're muted. Can't hear you.
And you hear Phenomenal everywhere
John,
now. I heard.
Put that one on next year's bracket. Josue, you're muted. That's going to go on.
We're running this. Yeah, we're running it through to Sunday. You get one more chance to vote in Sunday's game. We will announce a winner on Monday. Phenomenal versus Bobby Wi-Fi and a Garden Report March Madness bracket
Brockton
special.
Brockton
Wi-Fi. Sorry, and we've added a few ones since, so we'll have some new additions in next year's tournament. We'll knock some other
Facts, my dog.
Facts, my dog.
That's gonna be a top 3 seed.
Dr. Jimmy.
Top 3.
Dr.
Jimmy.
Homeschool.
Dr. Jimmy will be at the rate I'm going with it. It might be
Phenomenal is out. If this were a basketball game and this is the first quarter, Phenomenal's out to like a significant lead right now.
Yeah, yes. Brockton Wi-Fi is kind of that's like 2 years old.
Well, Brockton Wi-Fi it's a mainstay. Like,
but it's
never
a
going
mainstay.
away. Yeah,
it's like Kentucky. It'll be there, but it's not gonna win.
Yeah.
It had its day.
I might have to go for it. Brockton Wi-Fi is like an original. It's probably since day one we've been dealing with this.
That's one of the earliest jokes.
Just wait, still can't hear you.
There it goes. No, that's the mute button.
That's the mute button
now.
Yeah. Facts, my dog.
Anyways.
All right, so we will wrap it up, but just vote in the poll. If you can, support us, please. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channels here. Give us a like. Give us a follow. Follow here. You see a bunch of the Twitter handles on the screen. Other than that, that's what we got on Celtics CLNS Twitter as well. The polls are running there, and we'll be up for the next 2 or 3 days, so you can check that out. Wizards. What time's that game, guys?
1
o'clock.
All right, I'll think about it.
Random Sunday at 1 game.
Random Sunday at 1 game. We're back for that, so we'll see you guys.